Almost ready, almost ready. Hey, hello friends. You are there. Thank you for joining me today for Daily Art Adventure number 551. There, now we're official. Working on this big painting, moving on to the layers in oil. I have already done a glaze, oil glaze, various colors. I did this a couple days ago now. Cool, obviously, but quite a bit of warm here in the sky. I remember that. And a lot of warm down here. Anyway, if you watch me, you know how that goes. And it's all dry, so that's a nice trick. Now, fun moment. I have a new toy. It is, where's the box? Here it is. Artist's Paint Stick by Shiva. And they look like a lot of fun. And I think they'll work just great for my purposes. So, new experiment, new adventure. Let's see if we like these. Now, the trick of these is that they develop a dry skin over them. It's oil paint. And then you have to revive them by peeling off, if you will, by peeling off the skin layer that developed since the last time you used them. So it took me a while to figure that out. It's like, why these things don't work? And to figure out, oh, they do work if you follow the directions. Any of you artists out there have a hard time following directions? Not that we're not smart enough, it's just we're too ornery to follow directions. So I've got a couple very dark green, what do they call it? Phthalo green? I think yep, phthalo green and black. Let's switch now to orange and yellow. Okay, so in the last couple of days, I've had the opportunity a couple of times to try to describe to people what I think is going to be my new phase. I need a ladder already. My new phase of oil painting. And of course, I say to them, I'm going to spend more time on each painting. And most people have a hard time imagining, well, if you spend more time, doesn't that mean your paintings will get more and more realistic? And I finally, the other day, maybe I was talking to my wife, I can't remember, but I was talking to somebody. I came up with at least one way to describe why that is not the case. In other words, I plan to spend more time on my paintings, and yet they are not going to become just more and more detailed. So here it is. We're headed down a path. I'm coming your way. I'm walking down a path toward finished painting. If all the time that I spent on a canvas was geared toward realism and detail and accuracy, then yes, then in that case, the more time I spent on the canvas, the more detailed and realistic my painting would become. But if half the time, let's just say theoretically, let's say half the time that I spent on the canvas was exactly not toward realism, but in fact was toward abstraction and interesting marks, then you see we have still a balance. So I'm not going to change my style because I'm going to spend more time on a painting, because I'm going to be doing both more realism and more mess, as I often call it, which is in fact really what I'm doing right now with these markers. I'm calling them markers, with these paint sticks. See, that, sure, there's a red sign but there, but that mark that I just made can hardly be construed as an increase in similitude or realism. And that mark right there has absolutely nothing to do with realism. Likewise, those. Okay, enough said. Does that make sense? So a lot of the marks that a lot of the time that I'm going to spend on these paintings is going to be spent doing this kind of thing. Not realism at all, but in fact, the opposite of realism. More interest, more abstraction, more art marks, what my friend Neil Watson used to call it. Hey, here's a fun little story. My wife and I were in Beaufort, North Carolina for the last 2 days. That's why I didn't do any broadcasting. I was hoping I could do some broadcasting, but just didn't turn out. I took over 200 photographs, mostly of boats, marinas, old fishing boats, and we'll see which way the client wants to go with that. So anyway, I was not able to broadcast, but we stayed at Beaufort Inn, a hotel, fine hotel right on the water in Beaufort, and walked into their lobby, and there, hanging over the desk, was a painting by Neil Watson. I was quite excited. I said, hey, a painting by Neil Watson. I intended to take a picture of it, show you guys before I left, because it's hard to find pictures by him now. But I was quite excited, and I excitedly told the lady behind the desk what a great guy and what a great artist Neil Watson was. A.S. Let me zoom in, because I talk often about words and letters in paintings. This might be a good opportunity. Okay, so this sign is going to say Aspen Avenue. You can already see it a little bit. But now for my next layer, Aspen Avenue. Is that what I said? Aspen Avenue. Okay, that's one way to do it. I would be sorely remiss if I were to say that's the only way to do it, or that's the way to do it, but that is one way to do it. I often preach vehemently against the idea of switching into penmanship mode when you come across words or letters in your painting. Do not switch to penmanship. Right? So you saw how messy I did that. Now, what I'm wondering is, with this new stuff, if I were to dip a brush into Turpenoid or whatever this is, Gamsol, Sans Odor, whichever it is, and then, ooh, yeah, that's nice. Good, 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 good. Glad to see it. So yeah, the oil stick, as I would imagine, yeah, it dissolves quite readily. Oh, that's great. Hang on, I need to change gears here. Now that I put a bunch of that stick on, that oil stick on there, let's mess up a bunch of that oil stick. Woo! Oh, that's nice. Nice and soupy. Oh, I'm sorry, I get one out of your picture there. I've just been scribbling, dragging my brushes with just a little bit of Gamsol, Turpenoid, Sans Odor, whatever it is. It's a combination actually of all those across the oil stick marks that I just made a few minutes ago. And again, I encourage those of you who say, I'm quoting many of you, I wish I could get looser. I could be mean for a minute. Brace yourself, okay? If you're faint of heart, turn down the volume for a minute because I'm going to get mean. Okay, here's me being mean. Stop saying that. Stop saying, I wish I could get looser, and just do it. You have two hands on the end of two arms, I'm assuming. Just do it. Stop saying you want to get looser. Look at me. Now, I know you can't paint exactly like me, but who would want to? Who in their right mind would want to paint like me? Got it? Okay, there. That's the end of me being mean. I'm going to repeat it, though. Stop saying that. Stop saying I want to get looser. And just do it. As I said, most people say they want to get loose because they've heard that they're supposed to want to get loose, but they don't really understand why loose is better. So they don't really cut loose and get loose. All right, that's enough of the sticks. I'll probably come back to them sometime later, but set them aside. Let's do some traditional painting now. Very typically, the next step for me after the oil glaze is drawing with dark transparent. That's a redundancy. I understand. I'm saying that for you new timers, for you new people. I should not have to say dark and transparent. If I say one or the other, the opposite goes with it. If I say transparent, you know it's dark. If I say dark, you know it's transparent. I don't have to say dark transparent. That goes without saying. Now, not for you beginners. You don't know that dark and transparent are synonymous, but now you do. Okay. Okay, color. I'm going to pick up some dark dioxazine violet and mix it with some oxide red, which is really brown. So I'm getting a very dark purple. Oh, I'm going to add a little bit of ultramarine to that. Okay, so just very dark. And anything that needs drawing. Now, here's a big thing that needs fixing. When I came back to this painting today, I found myself quite dissatisfied with this vehicle, this car right here. It's too tall. I didn't like the angle of it. I'm gonna put the right side down just a little bit. If there are any new people watching today, welcome. Good to have you on board. I've been doing daily art adventures for over 2 years now, and as you can see, I'm all the way up to number 551. That's a lot of broadcasts. Some of those broadcasts are multi-parts and multi-hour longs. That's a lot of broadcasting. I've learned a lot about broadcasting and am still learning more about it, trying to get my technology all up to snuff, shall we say. Whatever snuff is, I don't know. I don't think it's a reference to the stuff you put in your nose. At least I don't put it in my nose, but I've heard that people put this stuff called snuff in their nose. I don't know what would possess a person to do that, but anyway, we'll get off that topic. The topic of snuff. And again, back to you, if you're perhaps a new people watching, please do leave your chats. I will look at those before the broadcast is over. I'm working in my garage today because this painting is 7.5, well, 7 feet 5 inches to be exact, 7 feet 5 inches tall. And my studio ceiling is 9 feet. That would leave, what, 9 inches at the top and the bottom of my painting. Anyway, so I'm out in the garage because at least out here I have I guess a 12-foot ceiling, 11-foot ceiling. No, it must be 11, not 12. Anyway, so I'm in my garage and it's cold today. I have got layers and layers and layers. I have layers that you can't see that I'm wearing today, because it was especially earlier this morning when I was getting ready, it was quite chilly out here. I also have a pot of hot tea sitting over here to my right. help keep me warm. Every time I talk about the cold, I hear in my head the ghosts of my childhood friends, especially. I grew up in Michigan. My wife and I also spent some time in Minnesota, where our 2 children were born. Our 2 biological children were born there. So I know, you know, I think I know fairly cold weather. And no, this is not as cold as that. They also, you know, I can hear them saying, oh, you think that's cold? Yeah, but the thing you have to keep in mind is painting a painting is not exactly like skiing or skating or snowshoeing. I'm not working up a ton of body heat. So anyway, it's high 30s, maybe probably low 40s by now. And the job has to be done. So I get a kick out of people sometimes, especially if it's like a student doing an interview or a newspaper or something, or there's no newspapers anymore. What am I trying to say? Yeah, TV reporter. So what's your inspiration for your painting? Shh, don't tell anybody. Don't ask me that. I hope nobody put that on a chat. I don't usually get that in a chat. But that's a really ignorant statement. The people who use the term inspiration, there's 2 categories of people. One is people who don't know anything about art. And that's okay. Not everybody, nothing wrong with being ignorant. But I will take the opportunity to educate you. So there's 2 kinds of people that use the term inspiration. One is people that don't know a thing about art, and the other is modern artists, quote unquote. And I'm using that term in the colloquial man on the street sense of the word, not the art historian, because they would say, well, you really mean contemporary? Yeah, shut up. I'm not talking to you. Anyway, because in fact, modern artists are, in fact, because their whole goal is not to paint something to look at, their goal is to paint ideas, something to think about, which is a fine human endeavor, by the way. It's just not art. Art is creating something, stuff that's made to look at. Okay, that's my definition. I'm sticking with it quite strongly. So therefore, much of modern art doesn't even qualify as art because it's not made to look at, it's made to think about. And again, nothing wrong with making stuff to think about, but they ought to come up with a different name for it. They have absconded with the word art. Anyway, that's who asks, what is your inspiration? So let me answer the question, what is my inspiration? My mortgage, groceries, utility bills, car payments. Those are my inspiration. How I got onto that is I was talking about, it's cold out here today. Why am I painting out here in the garage in the cold? Because I'm inspired. What am I inspired by? My mortgage. You get it? We have a name for people who sit around waiting to be inspired. I use this joke all the time. Hardly even a joke. We have a name for people who sit around, artists who sit around waiting to be inspired. Do you know what we call them? Starving artists, that's right. Professional artists, artists that are making a living, don't sit around waiting to be inspired, nor do they sit around waiting for the weather to warm up, is really where I was going with that. You wondered, didn't you? Where's he going with this? Okay. And I throw some of those things out, of course, because I'm always thinking, well, maybe there's a young artist watching. Maybe somebody who's twig, who's I can bend. How do you make it as a living as an artist? Well, one of the answers is you work your buns off. That's how. You ever notice I don't have any buns? I just go straight from waist to legs. I'm not being serious in the least. guys are looking at my butt saying, wait, is that true? No, it's not true at all. Okay, a change in drawing here. I discovered that the guy sitting on the bench here is too small. Darn, it's a kid sitting on the bench, but I don't want a kid sitting on the bench. I want an adult sitting on the bench. So I have to make him larger. Bit larger. Do you like that word? If you don't paint with two hands yet, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? God gave you two hands. He expects you to use them. Everybody else on the dang planet uses two hands. Cooks, chefs, basketball players, musicians, children playing, everybody uses two hands. Artists think they got a pass for some reason. It's ridiculous. And it feels weird. Of course it feels weird because you're not used to it. Everything feels weird when you first get started. Just press on. Was not ambidextrous. I've taught myself to be ambidextrous. And your brain can do that too. Anyway, there you go. And that's for you guys who are still saying, I wish I could paint loose. Well, there you go. Two hands. That's half the secret for most of you. The secret is out. How to paint loose. Use both hands. You know, I should not be telling people that because now I've developed such a, it's like a marketing, advantage. One of my bylines that I use describing myself sometimes is two hands and a tux. And if all you guys all start using two hands, I'm going to lose my distinctiveness. I'm not at all serious. If you want to be a good artist, use two hands. Leonardo da Vinci didn't use two hands. Yes, he did. That's part of my point, right? Okay, I might be done. No. Let me go up high here for just a minute. One of the challenges about painting really large is that you tend to ignore the parts of the painting you can't reach, just psychologically. It's like, I don't know if I can reach it with this little step stool. I have a real step ladder right behind me here. I'll use that if I need to. I'm still not on the, oh, you guys might not be able to see this. I'm sorry, my garage door is in the way. That just proves that I really am working up high on a tall ladder because my garage door right here is blocking your view. Sorry about that. All right, while I'm up here, let's do a little bit on this, the lettering on this sign way up here. The scene that I'm painting, for anybody that's new, is an intersection in Flagstaff, Arizona, where my wife and I were out there in December visiting our son, his wife, and our granddaughter. And our son graduated with a master's degree. We attended his graduation, shared Christmas with them, and I tromped all over town taking pictures, of course. So that's the only reason. I'm only painting this picture because I liked it, that's all. Not because it's like, what's the word? I'm not necessarily selling it, although I'd love to sell it to somebody in Flagstaff. Anybody know anybody in Flagstaff, tell them I'm doing a painting of their fine town. Mixing up some more dark stuff. And this is probably the 8th or 9th time that I've painted these trees, right? That's how you paint trees, stage by stage, layer by layer. Another trick, take a rag, dip my finger in turpenoid, and again, mess up some of those paint stick. I really think I'm going to like these paint sticks. This is the first time I've ever used them, and I'm really liking it already. All right, I'm ready to move on, and I'm trying to decide which way to move on. I'm going to do a little bit of fuzz layer. You regulars know what that means. But there's not a ton of it that needs to be done because there's already so much fuzz happening, which I like very much. But I'm going to do some anyway, so some fairly... Sorry, I wasn't doing anything too exciting down there that you missed. Oh, and by the way, my reference here is, you can see two things. One is the photograph, and the other is the third color sketch. That was an oil painting on aluminum. Nice little painting. That will be available for sale, but I haven't decided yet. I might reserve the small paintings to be a package deal with whoever buys the final painting. I'm not sure. Anyway, that's what I'm looking at that photograph and looking at that painting a great deal. Yeah, let's do some fuzz. Hang on just a second. I need to... You can't see this, so I'm just going to clean up my palette a little bit with a razor blade. My palette is glass, and when I run out of areas for mixing new colors, it's time to scrape some off. There's no such thing as a perfect palette solution. There are many different ways to do palettes. None of them are perfect. But my favorite seems to be glass and a razor. All right. Now, fuzz layer. Again, review for those of you who are perhaps a little bit new. Soft edges, extremely soft edges. Translucent. Very definitely not transparent, not opaque, translucent. Translucent colors and local color. That is to say, really, as you can tell by my painting process, I'm not always terribly concerned about local color. Like I put a bunch of green down here just in the last several minutes. Why? Not because there's green down there. No. Just because I wanted... The canvas is kind of loose. Just because I wanted some contrasting color down there, as a matter of fact. All right, let's do... Actually, with this stroke right here, I'm partly still making corrections to my vehicle. Hang on. So this isn't exactly fuzz layer. This is a short detour. I'm correcting the drawing. More correction there. There, that's better. Now that looks like a man sitting on that bench. It was a chilly day when we were in Flagstaff. You can tell because the people in this painting are wearing pretty bundled up, wearing coats, hats. It was mid-December, and even though it's many people in America, when they think of Arizona, they think of hot, hot desert down in the valley, Phoenix, Tempe, and so on. But they often don't realize that northern Arizona is mountains. And Flagstaff has 7,000 feet elevation. And so they get real winter weather up there. Okay, now back to some fuzz. So I'm mixing up a very pale orange, warm yellow. What I'm painting right now is not in the photograph at all. This is an invention that came about while I was doing the last sketch, the painting. The light is coming from our right. It's evidently an early morning painting. Not that it could be evening. If you're not from Flagstaff, you don't know. This could be evening, but it is coming, and this is light coming between a building and going this way. I know it looks like it could be coming this way, but everything else in the painting tells you the light's coming from the right, and so this is a crack, if you will, a space between two buildings, and the light hitting the street. You seem to be getting more traffic. The further I go with this painting, more cars keep appearing. That's all right. Maybe it's people going to work, if it's, early morning. When I took the picture, it was not early morning. It was about 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, I believe. But during the course of doing my sketches, once again, that's part of the reason you do sketches, is so that you can have happy accident discoveries, like, ooh, it turned into a twilight, almost evening-ish painting, very deep shadows here. And I'm quite happy with that, was happy with that development. So some of this lighting is not from the photograph, it's lighting that I've made up. But if that is the case, then I'm thinking that some of these windows here, oh, that's not a window, hang on. Some of these windows should have a warm light coming out of them. So, right, that's what that is right there. All right, I'm going to switch to a pale blue. One of the functions of my fuzz layer is to make sure that I have adequate atmospheric perspective. It's like intensification of atmospheric perspective. Yeah, which is what I want right up here. It's too purple. Hi, David, I just saw your comment. And yes, I did get your comment about the shapes of the street lights. Square for green and so forth. I think that was the case. But you know what? They're not that way in Arizona. I think I'm tracking with you. I think I know what you're talking about. In the States, and I think it's in Canada too. I mean, in driver's ed, you're taught the order that red is always at the top, yellow in the middle, and green at the bottom. But the shapes are all the same. And I wanted to make sure you weren't talking about the man pedestrian crosswalk sign, right? No. Yeah. Interesting. And that's a little bit too opaque, so I'm just going to take a little bit off. So there are two separate hills back here. This hill and then this one slightly further away. So the closer one, of course, is darker, and in this case a little bit more purple-ish, whereas the farther away hill is bluer and lighter. So everything I'm putting on right now is very transparent. It's just a hint of color. Really, painting in layers the way I do, mostly transparent, but then, as in this case, translucent layers, really allows you to have a great deal of control without falling into the traps that usually come with painting in with a great deal of control. Okay, I think I'm going to leave that for right now. And I've got a dirty, dull, cool gray on my brushes right now. Where else can I use that? Nowhere, so I'm going to warm it up with some yellow ochre. So now it's a warm gray. One of the things I try to correct in the fuzz layer is local color errors or inconsistencies. In this case, this street light, we're seeing this street light from the side. So the red light will be on here. But the structure, the street light, the metal itself is a dark green. And so I just wanted to scribble in a little bit of dark green to get that going in the right direction. Likewise, this post is green. I already have that hinted at, but I'm going to make it a little greener all the way up there. Some of this is fictitious. This pole does not actually exist in the photograph. I added that. It's reflective of the feeling of the scene. The photograph has a number of vertical shapes in it right there, and so I'm being fair to the feeling, but I'm not being literal. That could sound really confusing, but trust me, that it feels like there's a vertical post right there, even though in reality this vertical is a little bit further away. That was just as clear as mud, wasn't it? Now, is there anything in the photograph, I ask myself, is there anything that really, that I want to convey that the sun is really smashing, bouncing, glancing, exploding off this surface? And the answer is yes, first of all, way down here, but I've already got that. There's plenty of glow there. I don't think I need to add any. But I do think I could add some to this woman's white jacket, add a little bit of explosion, I'll call it that. Add a little bit of explosion to her jacket. I already have some, but I can stand to have more. And likewise, the man's red coat. And again, the red in the photograph, the man's shirt, long sleeve shirt, is a purplish blue, but that didn't work nearly as well as red, so he got turned into red. Now, yes, definitely this sign up here, since I've got red on my brushes already, I'll stick with that for a moment. So I'm looking for things that, again, I want it to look like the sun is just blistering, glistering, sparkling, smashing, bouncing off. Hey, I came up with a new way to describe this just last week or so. I've been teaching for years, and this is not a Dan Nelsonism, this is plain old art professorism, that the most important aspect of a painting is play of light. Now, don't be confused. The essence of doing painting, the verb, see, the word painting in the English language is both a noun and a verb. This is a painting, noun. I am painting, verb. Okay, so the most important aspect of a painting, the noun, is play of light. The essence of good painting, the verb, is making interesting marks. Okay, that can be confused, especially if English is your second language. And most Americans don't really speak English very well anyway, so never mind, I'll leave that topic alone. So, play of light. The viewer, here's another way to describe good play of light. Now let me describe a bad way to say it. Beginner painters often get hung up on the question, which way is the light coming from? And I strongly encourage my students, do not pat yourself on the back for getting that correct. You don't get any credit for that. You can get kicked out of the club for getting that wrong, but you don't pat yourself on the back like, yay, I got it right. It's sort of like, I don't want to be too crude, but when you go out in public in the Western world as an adult, everybody else assumes that you're toilet trained. This is really crude, sorry. Everybody assumes you're toilet trained, right? When you're 30 years, 40 years old, you don't go up to people and say, guess what? I'm toilet trained. They look at you like, but if you're 3 or 2.5 or 3, yeah, that's a good thing to brag about. That's sort of what bragging that you got the light coming from the right direction in your painting. This is really strong. Don't take offense. But I say these things, I want you to be a good painter. Doggone it, I want you all to be better painters. Saying things like, I got the light from the right direction, is sort of like saying, I'm not wearing a diaper today. Nobody expects you to be wearing a diaper today. Okay? You don't give yourself credit. Now here's the reason one of the reasons I'm being so mean about that is because I have seen many students that when they get that correct, when they achieve this astounding feat comparable to being toilet trained, when they succeed in being consistent and having the light coming from this or that direction, here's what happens. They congratulate themselves and think they have arrived. Yay, I know all about light. It's coming from the right or the left. It's like the person next to you at the theater saying, I'm not wearing a diaper. Well, we didn't think you were wearing a diaper. We didn't think you'd be out in public if you weren't toilet trained. Okay, so I hope I've insulted you to the point only so that you never. So what happens when you congratulate yourself is that you stop. You think you've reached some pinnacle of, oh, this is so mean, forgive me. But somebody out there, believe me, a lot of students need to hear this because they get stuck. Anyway, here's the new expression I came up with last week is, we don't care what the light is hitting. We don't care whether the light's coming from the left or right. We assume you're going to get that correct. Now, between you and me, we both know that sometimes you don't. Have I ever gotten that wrong? Yeah, I'm sure, but no, not in the last 50 years. That's true. Okay. We don't care what the light is hitting. We care what the light is hitting off. Let me say it this way. We don't care what the light is on. We care what the light is off. Let me use this lady's white jacket for a second. We assume that you're going to get it right. The light's coming from our right, her left. That's not what we care about. What we care about is light off her jacket hitting other things, whether it's the atmosphere right around here or other things. Same thing here. We don't care that I got taillights. What we care about is the red from the taillights hitting other stuff. That's what we care about. We don't care what the light's on. We care what the light's off. We don't care. You know what I mean? We don't care. Now, believe me, you'll get kicked out of the, we'll look at your painting really weird if you don't get it correct. So you do have to get it correct. You just don't get any big credit for getting it correct. Because if you take credit, you're liable to rest on your laurels and say, I have arrived. No, you have not arrived. Okay, and I hope I didn't ruin anybody's day, but I sure do hope I made somebody out there a better painter. Stop bragging that you got the light coming from the right direction. It goes without saying. That might have been a little bit harsh for somebody. I'm sorry if it was, but it's because I want you to be a better painter. So I'm painting glow. You can see the, especially from all those taillights, right? You can see they're not what they're going to be. Now you might say to me, why is everybody on the street got their taillights on? I don't know. That's not my problem. Just happened to be the way it was that day. Everybody in Flagstaff was riding their brakes. I don't know. Funny people in Flagstaff. They're strange drivers. They ride their brakes. Okay, so up here, the sun is hitting part of this red sign. See, but we don't care that the sun is hitting the sign. We care that the light is bouncing off that sign. The red light is scattering all over the place. Same thing here. Does that make sense? All right, I'm going to go way up high, way up, and I'm sorry, how down? Okay, good, that's down a little bit better. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing, so to speak, to that yellow sign. Again, for those of you who are just perhaps catching this painting for the first time, intersection in Flagstaff. In fact, it's right at the corner of Route 66 and something. This, I believe, going across in front of us, right here is Route 66. I'm sorry you couldn't see that gesture. I left you pointed away. I'm coming back up there in a second. Hang on. And the hotel in question here, the building in question, I should say, is a hotel. And it's called the Hotel Monte Vista, one of the classic old famous landmarks in downtown Flagstaff. Built in the, I think, 1920s, and I think like many other buildings, fell into a state of dereliction but has been fixed up now and is humming along just great. And it's also supposedly haunted, so that gives it just, you know, one of those extra little bits of excitement. So ghost hunters come to this hotel. I did a sketch sitting in their bar right inside the front door down here. I did a nice little watercolor sketch of the front hallway, which was a little bit haunted looking. So I did a sketch in watercolor and I called it Almost Haunted, just for fun. So do you see that mess that I just made up there around the sun bouncing off that yellow sign? All right, I'm going to be mean again just for a minute and say, stop saying, I want to get loose. Stop saying that. Stop saying that. Just do it. Just grab a hold to yourself. Now, part of the reason I'm saying this to you is because I'm saying it to myself as well. Does it make sense? I'm not really castigating you. I'm saying, no, this is what I have to do myself. Stop saying you want to paint looser and doggone it, just do it. There. If I can help you be a better painter by being a little bit mean, it's obvious that I'm not above doing so. Okay, now down here at the bottom, we really need some work here. So I've mixed up warm, kind of yellow ochre-ish stuff. I quite like the color that I achieved at the bottom of this painting down here, and I like the photograph as well. So that's. I need to move in that direction. And I do like the green that I put down there for contrast, but I don't, there's too much of it. So just need to warm up that whole area quite a bit. So I'm back to medium large brushes. More red. Now, as you know, this is not the final layer. It ain't this my style painting. It ain't over till it's over, and it won't be over till it's over. Profound, absolutely profound. The final edit layer is just like it sounds. I need an even bigger brush than that I'm using. So I'll use a 4-inch brush now. Whoa, there's some red. I just picked a bunch of red. All right. To kill the red, I picked up too much with my brushes. To kill that, I mixed in some of my favorite color killer color. Every once in a while, there's a color that needs killing. I said that to an artist one time, and he said, "Which one?" No, I don't mean that there's a particular color that needs killing. What I mean is, in the course of doing, look, I'm running into something up there, aren't I? In the course of doing a painting, every once in a while, there's a color on your canvas that needs killing. Anyway, and I now have a go-to pile of paint on my palette that I use for killing color, and it is student grade, believe it or not, student grade raw umber. Now, I'm going to stand back and look at this. I'm not sure that's what I want or not. Let me take a minute and step outside of my garage. Okay, yeah, that's definitely closer. No. Now, because I did so much soft, fuzzy stuff down there, it looks to me like I'd be helped by doing some scratchy stuff. Yeah. Now I'm scratching with two things. The pencils that I've been using for the last couple of years, and also the oil stick. Fun new toy. Now, do I need... Yes, I do. Okay. Still in the fuzz layer here. Still thinking in terms of soft, translucent, local color. I need to do some work up here in the sky. Right up here. Needs to be a little paler than it is, and a little, well, not bluer, but the color that is good. But I need to, and forgive me for a minute, I need to waste your time and take a razor and scrape off my palette again. It's covered with yellow, orange, brown. That will not serve me well when I'm painting the sky. All right. Am I zoomed into the right area? Yeah, okay. Titanium white, little phthalo blue. Boy, little, you all know, don't you? Little phthalo goes a long way. Woo! Some people don't like phthalo for that very reason, and I strongly, strongly urge you to get over. You know, I've heard people say, ew, I never use phthalo, it's to something. Well, it's a staining color, so you have to treat it differently. But I strongly encourage you, do not try to get away without using phthalo. It's such a beautiful color. Now, my two blues, the only two blues I have used on a regular basis for the last 15 years. That doesn't mean I'm right. It might be a weakness in my painting that I don't use a wider range, but so far I'm not convinced it's a weakness. I'm just being generous, saying it might be a weakness, but I don't think it is. The two colors I use are phthalo blue and ultramarine. I don't use cobalt. I've done this experiment a couple of times with classes where I've mixed up a good quality phthalo and ultramarine to imitate a cobalt blue, and the students couldn't tell the difference. Couldn't tell the difference between which one was the real cobalt blue and which one was the phthalo and ultramarine that I'd mixed together. So to me, that's close enough. I don't need ultramarine. I mean, I don't need cobalt, because I can achieve the colors I want with two non-toxic colors. And we don't know if cobalt blue is toxic or not. California thinks it might be. But if you don't need it, hey, why even bother? I'm still painting fuzz. Does that make sense? And I just realized I've not been painting around the edge of this canvas very well. So let me take a minute, do some painting over here. Sorry, you can't see this but it's got to be done. All right. I have lost now the top of this road where it disappears over a hill. I did a real sweet job of this on the aluminum painting, and I'd really like to imitate or emulate that here. I'm looking, yeah, you know what? I need to do a bunch of fuzz way up, blue, way up at the top of this canvas where you guys can't even see because the garage door is in the way. So tell you what, I'm going to give you guys a chance to go pour a cup of tea, go to the bathroom, as if anybody's sitting there glued to their computer. Don't worry, I don't really have such delusions of something. But I'm going to take a little break, and I'm going to do fuzz blue way at the top. Yeah, before I go, though, let me tell you what, let me show you what's happening up there. I'm going to give you guys an earthquake ride. Hang on. Hang on. All right, I love the top of this painting. I love the way it's looking right now. Am I pointing the right direction? Yeah, so you see that red, those wild gestural red marks, they were made at the very beginning of the painting process. And I'm very glad that they are there because they're going to keep my blue sky from getting ridiculously boring. But there's just a little bit too much of that up there right now. So I'm going to stand on my tall ladder and go up there and do a bunch of fuzz, pale blue fuzz. I'm not going to obliterate those red lines, do you understand? But I am going to push them back somewhat. I definitely want those to show in the final painting. I just don't want them to show as much as they're showing right now. Okay, so quick break. I'll be back probably 10 minutes or so. Thanks for, oh, wait. I'm sorry. I have to look at your comments and your chats before I go, so hang on just a second. Thank you for reminding me. Whoa, a lot of chat. Good, thank you guys. Let's see what's happening here. Thanks for joining me in my messy, cold garage this morning. Ah, good old friends. Hi, Bruno. Good to see you. Early oil players. Early oil players. I didn't even notice the typo. Thank you, Bruno. That's so funny. Oh, boy. And Zamorite talks about the oil sticks. When all else fails, follow the directions. Realism is easy. Art is difficult. You're exactly correct, Zamorite. Art, you're exactly correct. Zamorite says, one of my favorite way of practicing looseness is to take a tool and mindlessly scribble shade. Just go nuts on the paper and manage it as it goes. That's correct. I agree with you completely. It's nerve-wracking because it makes everything learned in art school and launches it out the window. Very good, Zamorite Art. I appreciate your insightful comments. but he or she, I think it's a she, right? But you're not going outside. Korean artist TV. Looks good. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, David says, clarifies, a circle for green for the people that are color blinded. Huh. So the side light would have a green side glow as well. Oh, I think, are you talking, this right here will be red because it's for people coming this way. David, I'm not sure. And I haven't done that red glow yet. Thanks for reminding me of that. Before I go up and do the blue, I'll do that. On your small post, there's a lot more greener, the one at the corner. Got it. David is suggesting that you all give me a thumbs down for that horrible toilet comment. I wouldn't blame you a bit. Wouldn't blame you a bit. If there's any thumbs down here, I'll know they come. All right, welcome back, folks. So I am finished, I think, with the fuzz layer. I did the blue up in the corner. I won't bother showing that to you right now. So I'm almost ready for the final edit, which is far and away the slowest of all the layers, just as you can imagine. Final edit. That means it's done. Now, ironically, in the last year, I have developed one more phase stage layer after the final edit. So the final edit isn't final anymore, but I'm still treating it like the final edit, so I keep calling it that. What's been added is broken color, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's finish this. I'm not quite ready for final edit, and part of the reason is that very often at the end of the fuzz layer, I find that I have obliterated so much of my earlier pencil marks that there's just not nearly enough scratchiness in this painting to suit me. So very often, as you see me doing here, I am coming back after the fuzz layer and doing more pencil. Again, I say this so often, the pencil is partly to achieve realistic drawing, similitude, I usually call it, right? But more than that, the purpose of the pencil layer is just to add a bunch of texture to the painting. So that's what I'm doing right now. And because this layer is, even if I zoom in, what should I zoom into? Let's go up to this aspen sign. Because the lines that I'm doing are fairly discrete, fairly small, fine. You guys can hardly see them. So I'm not going to keep broadcasting for a long time while I'm doing these lines. Trust me, up here in personal, they definitely show up, but they don't show up quite enough on camera to warrant me doing. I just think it would be too boring. So I'm going to wrap up this broadcast here real quickly and do all of these pencil marks. And then when I come back, I'm going to end this broadcast too, so that when I come back in a little while, I would think in an hour or less, I'll probably take advantage of the break to go get a bite to eat for lunch and things like that. When I come back, then I'll start a new broadcast, which will be the final edit layer, which is always fun, but it takes the most time. All right, so thank you. Let's see if there's any chats just in the last second. Nope, I didn't think so. Okay, so I'll be back in a while with my next broadcast Yeah, which I'll call Daily Art Adventure 552.